Welcome, everybody, to the Creature Cast, the official Console Creatures podcast. My name is David Petrangelo, and I'll be one of your hosts on this journey into all things video games. It is once again my pleasure to say hello to my fellow writers and podcasters. Right up front, we're going to say hello to editor extraordinaire, Bobby. How are you?
It is finally, after a week and a half of rain, a sunny Toronto day. So, yes.
It's
good.
It's been a nice week. It definitely has improved the mood,
Yeah,
I would say, across
because
Southern Ontario.
last
I
week
would
was
say, yeah.
a horrible week for like just mood. Like it was just everything was so dark and dreary the entire week. Like it felt.
It's so nice outside that I've been in my basement for the last week playing games. Yeah.
my lawn finally needs a cut because of this rain.
Yes. Yeah. I did that the other day too. So it's nice. I like cutting lawns. I've talked about it. I've talked about Lawnmower Simulator. I've talked about cutting real lawns, and now I can finally cut the real lawns. So here we go. Steve, hello, welcome back. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing really good. It's funny you're talking about the rain. I didn't even notice that it was that rainy last week because
Oh wow,
maybe it just went over my head. I don't even know, but I remember a few days of rain. But yeah, now that you mention it,
it was like a solid week.
Today's beautiful though.
Yeah.
It was messy enough, at least.
Yeah,
it was messy enough for it not to be enjoyable. How about that?
That's true. But now we're on an upward trend. We got some good days coming ahead.
Yes, absolutely.
Not even just exclusively the weather. Some real good days coming ahead that I'm excited to talk about.
I know, exactly. We got lots to talk about this week. We have some Legend of Zelda to talk about, and that'll mostly be Bobby's experience with the latest title in the series. Really briefly, I do want to plug that I put up a editorial review, whatever you might want to call it, of my experience finishing Majora's Mask. I talked about it on the show a couple of weeks ago. As far as finishing goes, the credits happened. I wouldn't say that I came anywhere close to being able to collect all the masks and all the hearts and get my magic bar higher, all those kinds of things. You can read it at consolecreatures.com. I do have some of my thoughts there. I am on the plus side of it. I did really enjoy it. Steve, I know it's your favorite or one of your favorites of the series, at least so far. We'll see in the future. But I think if I did not play this on the Switch and I didn't have some guides with me at the same time, so not having save states and not having the ability to look up things every once in a while, I do think I would not have enjoyed this game as much as I did. Partially because I don't have the time, man. I don't have the time to do everything in this. So I just, and the flexibility to have I limited myself to having 2 save states. So I don't know if that's any better, if that makes me any more of like a purist, but overall, I really like the dungeons. I love the variety for the masks. I think that is really where it shines. At times I found that the time element of it and mechanic was cool. But at other times, which I think we've discussed, and I do say in the article as well, seemed either too hindering or also pointless because you can just slow time down. So if I can slow time down, why not just take time away? But it just depends on what you're doing and what you need to do and stuff. So overall, I really liked it, but also a little bit mixed based on the fact that I kind of needed a lot of help to kind of get through it, but not in a bad way. I still liked the stuff that I was doing, even though I was it was holding my hand every once in a while. So, yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, I'm just glad you experienced it. I think that's a game that everyone needs to experience, whether or not they're going to take something positive or negative or somewhere in the middle.
Well, if you're going to say Ocarina of Time is the best game in the series and then not play Majora's Mask, like you have to.
Right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. And I don't know, like I've never really landed on myself having like my favorite Legend of Zelda game. I have definitely only played about half of them, I would say, and definitely half of them to completion for sure. So it's hard for me to be like, this is the best one. Like, sure, these 264 titles, like for sure, need to be discussed and need to be sort of like towards top tier, I would say, just based on the technology that they do and what they brought to the overall franchise. But yeah, if you've played one going to this now, I definitely see why it's a no-brainer, even based on just the way that this is set up and how different it is while also having similarities. Like I like how just a couple years later, they use the same engine, but they really went farther with it than they really needed to, because they had such a huge success, probably the best one or most popular one in the series up to that point. They could have just milked it and done kind of a simple extended version of Ocarina of Time, and they did not. They did this, and it's wildly different.
In less than a year, we should say. In 10 months, they turned that around and made like one of the best like early 3D Zelda games of all time. So like good on them.
Exactly.
And then also just add on to that, like then they went from that to Wind Waker.
Yep.
Right.
In like
crazy,
3 years,
like a complete 180.
Yeah. Which again, I still haven't played, but I really want to play.
Yeah, I know. Because like I think you have to.
Yeah, true.
That's so true. I'm really want to, if I can find a way to play it legally, would be great. But I'll try and get
just
it.
Buy the copy on. Oh, can you even buy virtual copies anymore? I don't think you can. Shoot, I was gonna say just buy it and then.
That's the thing. It's one of those hard ones to get. Yeah, it's hard to get a hold of that one, which is one of the reasons. And I never owned a GameCube, so
virtual console Nintendo, like really.
Yeah,
money you could be using.
Give us Wind Waker. Give
money
us
you could literally line your pockets with that you're just wasting it because we want VC games and you don't want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's all about the money.
No, Dave, you're gonna love Wind Waker. Just
you like aspects of it. I think it's kind of dated now. Like the traversal still sucks. Like it's probably the worst part, but the story was incredible. Like there's moments that have just stuck with me.
The exploration.
Yeah.
But that's how I feel about Majora's Mask too. Very similar, where it's like, yeah, it feels dated, but I used sort of updated technology to kind of get myself through it, and it was totally fine, and it was great. And also the Switch versions of these 64 games, I've played with a couple others. Played some Mario Golf, I played some Mario Tennis, and I booted up Yoshi Story the other day and stuff. Like they look pretty good. Like they sort of look a little shinier, a little better on the Switch with some updated emulation on them. So anyways, enough about Majora's Mask. Everybody's waiting to hear about another Legend of Zelda game. Tears of the Kingdom.
About it at all. Let's just breeze right.
Yeah, Tears of the Kingdom is right around the corner. We have someone who has played it. We are not going to talk about it. Okay, Steve, let's talk about Star Wars.
Yep, exactly.
We will get to Star Wars. The two of us are still playing Jedi Survivor and
Jedi what?
Jedi Survivor, Star Wars,
yeah,
Star Wars.
It's gonna have to survive
really popular
in the shadow of Tears of the Kingdom because that's what it's doing right now.
Hey, okay, here we go. Let's get it started. Tears of the Kingdom. Bobby, you have had your hands on it for the last week and a half to 2 weeks. The thoughts about the game are now out there. The release is right around the corner as of the release of this episode. I'm gonna let you sort of take the reins here, man. Let's talk about it.
Let's start with there's so much to cover in this game, and let's start with this. There's no spoilers, right? So I'm not going to spoil anything because really,
okay,
I know there are spoilers out there, and I think that's kind of ruined it for a lot of people. But I mean, this is all spoiler free. But let's start with from the top. So straight up, this is not a new Zelda game. You're not getting Legend of Zelda, whatever you want to call it. This is a straight up sequel to Breath of the Wild. It is the next iteration of that world. It is a direct follow-up to what happens at the end of that game when Clan Ganon has been defeated and the world is starting to turn a new leaf. But obviously this is Ganon. He's obviously very persistent little Gerudo. So obviously within minutes things are not as they seem, and well, it's back to Link and Zelda to save the world again. So let's start from that. Like that's the basis of the game. Yeah. We all know that's the whole thing. Ganon comes back. Link has to save the world. This is a dark game, so that's what kind of threw me off from Breath of the Wild, because I mean, just recalling it from my mind, I didn't touch it in the lead up to Tears of the Kingdom. So I came in with a fresh mind. Everything was very unfamiliar to me. So that was the first thing. This is a dark game. I was telling Steve that this is on par with Majora's Mask. Like it kind of threw me off in the first couple minutes. What's happening? Because Steve, literally,
not seeing this. Steve is fist pumping right now.
It's like a Dark Souls mix of Zelda. Like that's what kind of the vibe
I like this. Right? I like this. That sounds good to me.
But yeah, it's this is the opening.
Yeah, whoa.
It's a good thing. But this is like the opening 20 minutes. Like you're thrown into this pretty quickly. So it within an hour, you're basically on your own. Like the tutorial is the same thing, right? So you're basically like the Great Plateau. Tears of the Kingdom has its own version of that, which I think is probably even better because the way it's introduced, what it brings to Link and what he has to do from this new area. And from there, it's basically like our first introduction of the Zonai and who these people are and how intricate they are to the history of Hyrule. And that's what kind of, I think, is the first thing to remember, is this is not the Sacred Realm Hyrule. This is a new version of Hyrule. So this is the end of the timeline. This is the furthest thing away from Skyward Sword. So you're getting something that's completely unknown. And that's where I kind of want to go with this, right? Hyrule feels unknown again. Like you're going back to the, I guess you want to call it the Kingdom of Hyrule. It's kind of been destroyed with the upheaval, but yeah, it's like this brand new world. Like I thought I remembered where everything was, but because of what Ganon did, it feels like a brand new world. Like everything's been transformed. There are way more enemies. There are hundreds of caves you're going to explore. You're going to the Sky Islands to find shrines. You're going. Oh man, there's so see this is where I can't get into much because there's places you're going that have not been talked about, and like I'm trying to keep it so spoiler free. But
let me jump in with a question then, and maybe this will direct the conversation in a way. So you're talking about Hyrule, the upheaval. How much of it does feel familiar? Because you are talking about like, oh well, some of the I can spot some of the locations, but does it feel like more like a fresh coat of paint over an area, or is it kind of like this is? I know that the Zors were over here at one point, but now they've shuffled over to a different part of the map, or is it kind of like, okay, this is the same area, it's just everything's kind of changed to a point where it just feels very new, but I understand like where it was in contrast to Breath of the Wild.
It's a mix of all of that. So like you know where the Gorons are, you know where the Ritu are, and just to give you an example, the Ritu, you know how they're, you know where they live. They live in the trees. They live in this beautiful forest, and with what Ganon's done, it's now a snow-covered plain. They're in a blizzard with no food, and that's the first thing I went to go do. I was like, okay, let's go explore this corner of the map. And while I thought I remembered it, things have changed so much because now parts of Hyrule are floating in the sky. There, like I said, there's cave-ins. There's so much happening on the floor that it doesn't feel familiar at all. So like you might see the names, you might be like, I kind of remember that, but you go there and it's like, this is not what I remember, because now there's more moblins, there's more bokoblins, there's new enemies that you've never seen before, and they're just exploring just like you are. And because of what Ganon's done, you have to be a lot more careful. So you could be exploring, you could be mobbed by about 14 enemies at one point, and because of what's happening, every weapon in the world has been rusted. So it's basically been because of Ganon's upheaval, the weapons are gone. No one has weapons that can survive. So basically, you're having weapons that have 1 or 2 hits. So if you hate durability before, I have to tell you this, it's a lot worse now. But the fuse ability and all the new abilities from the Zonai have made up even playing field. So like you have the fuse ability, which I've told you about I mentioned in my review. It's probably one of my favorite things because it basically lets you use anything as a weapon. So if you have a rusted sword and you find like a boulder, you can combine them and make a blunt hammer that deals area of effect damage, or you can swing it and hit 4 or 5 enemies at a time. Or, if you want to shoot a fire arrow, you can grab a fire fruit, fuse it to your arrow, and just ignite them all with a piece of flint or a Hyrulean pine cone, which is probably the funniest thing you can do. If you throw a pine cone at a fire, it's like a massive whirlwind of flame and just like explosions that
I was gonna say, does it explode like a shotgun or a firecracker sort of idea?
All these new
nice
like plants and like new items that you're finding that help you in your fight, because like I said, all the weapons in the world have just been like rusted. Everything's done. Like there's nothing on the surface that can stop Ganon at this point.
So my question about fusing them together and the durability stuff is that I know that now, as far as we know, as far as I know anyway, even though you fuse it together, doesn't mean there's no durability. Those will eventually break too. So let's say,
so it's like,
so let's say you make that sword. Yeah, well, I just like if you make that sword, that rusted sword and rock thing, and make this giant hammer, for example, when that breaks, does the rock just break off, or does the whole thing break and now you have to start from
The
scratch?
whole
Like,
thing,
does it
the
break
whole
into
thing will break.
pieces and you can, the whole thing does? Okay.
That's fine because
Just
it adds a
wasn't
lot
sure,
more
yeah.
durability. So you get a stronger weapon, you'll get at least another 10 to 15 hits in there, so you have a more durable weapon.
Okay.
But like I said, like
It's obviously stronger in
it's
different
stronger.
ways.
So
Yeah.
like and you can. So there's another thing you do. So like for example, you have a hammer. If you go into a cave, you'll find like rubies, you'll find opals and stuff like that. And depending on what it is, if you grab like a stick, like a branch, and attach a ruby to it, you have a fire orb wand that you can just start throwing flames at people. So you're given
That's
all this
cool.
stuff from the beginning.
Nice.
Like this is just stuff you get within the first hour. You're finding it as you're exploring it.
You'll just find it randomly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because before I don't remember I don't believe it was as common to find the rubies and all the opals, but within like the first hour I had a stash of them. I was creating just wands of like fire, ice, electricity, just to have them on my body. But
So
And you
that's
can
another
carry.
question I have
Yeah. Go
about
ahead.
the fusing. So if you fuse an item or like a weapon, do you keep that like, or is it one fuse at a time kind of thing? Like if you fuse a hammer, do you get to put that hammer in your backpack, or are you forced to just hold on to it? Otherwise, it like loses its
oh no,
fuse.
it's just like a regular item. You just store it back in your backpack.
Oh, cool.
But
Okay.
Okay.
you can also fuse like shields. So you can like take your shield, you can add a boulder to it for extra, just extra defense, or you can I think I did something. It was something stupid. It was just like I threw I fused a shield with it was some monster part, and basically once the monster hits it, it creates a smoke screen so they can't find you. It was like I think it was like a Korok, a wing or
Oh,
something, where it basically just it creates a smoke screen. You can vanish. So there's a lot of
That's
things
cool.
I haven't explored a lot with it. I did just the basics. Like if you throw like I think it's called jeez, it's like the bat enemy. So basically you can take the eye and you can fuse it to your arrow,
Yeah.
and it's a homing arrow. So if you can't hit an enemy in the sky, you just fuse the eye to the arrow and it'll home down and hit them from anywhere.
nice.
And all the like, every ability you get within the first hour, because Link is at his weakest. We know how this happens. He gets Metroidvania at the beginning. He loses everything. So his first job is to get obviously fuse. He's got recall, which I think is probably one of the godsends. I wish more games
Yeah.
had this. Ascend and Ultra
Wh-
Hand.
Which one's recall
So
again?
recall is like a rewind feature. So if you're like working through a puzzle and you screw up something and you don't want to go get the piece, you kind of like drop to the floor, you can hit recall
Right.
and it'll just rewind and it'll show you the path of where it's coming back from. So it's
Okay.
really good for finding the Koroks, because the Koroks are back. The only thing is that that specific like signature sound that they have when you're trying to find them, it's not in this game. I mean, at least not to me. I never noticed it.
Oh.
Oh, that was so
It
fun.
was right,
Yeah, I like
but
that.
now like they're a lot more present. You're seeing them, and they're in
Okay.
packs now. So you might find like two or three at a time, and you need to get one of them to the other one. So you have to figure out the puzzle of getting them there. So like for example,
Oh,
the first one
okay.
you'll come across, you have to fuse a giant hook to a piece of wood, attach the Korok to that, and then watch it go down the rail to his buddy. So it's like a cool puzzle that you
Okay.
have to use the environment to. And so like that's why I think
That's
recall.
fun. I like that. I like how
Yeah,
like
me too.
finding them is a puzzle as opposed to just like, hey, are they up that tree or something
Are they
like, well,
behind a
'cause
rock?
there's so
Yeah.
Some of
many.
them are
Yeah, there's
behind
so
rock.
many in Breath of the
Yeah,
Wild,
for the most part, it's
but
just like
yeah,
you have to like figure out how to get them together. And
yeah, that's cool.
it's
I like
stuff like
that.
that. So
Nice.
recall is really good for rewinding. Just like even like working in uh we'll have to spoil it. I mean, it was announced today. There are temples in this game, so if you're working through a puzzle in a temple, you can recall whatever you've been working on and just bring it back to where it was and start over. And then
Okay.
Dungeon, right?
they're well,
Dungeon, not
they're
temple, right?
dungeons, temples. It's just whatever you base them. I've always called them temples just because Ocarina of
Okay.
Time, right? That's always what I've done. But Ascend is a great other tool that Link has. I mean, like I said, I think this is the one tool that more games should have, or going forward, more Zelda games should have. It was shown in the preview with Nintendo about a month ago, but basically, if you don't
Yep.
want to use your stamina and you just want to get to the top of a building or a mountain, you can go through a cave, use Ascend to look up into the sky, and if it's a green square, you can literally bypass all of that hassle of climbing up and just ending up wherever it takes you. So that
So is that so the limit? There's obviously a limitation to it. Is it just um, if it's green or not, or like can you only use it once every
no,
5 minutes
you
or
can use it as
something? Like,
much
is
as
there
you
some
want.
sort
It
of
just
like
has to have a
reset to it?
green
Okay,
square. So if you look up and it says
okay,
red,
that's
you
all.
can't use it. But it's pretty.
Okay, and how quickly would you get something like this in recall? Because you've played it more than just a few hours. You've had it for like a week and a half or
Yeah.
2 weeks and stuff. So does it take you a while to get these abilities that now you say are pretty much game changers, or are people going to potentially stumble upon these and that's how you get them, or is it really just part of like the main story dungeons and stuff that you get them and you're going to get it within 10 hours? Like, what's sort of the rough time frame of
So
that, of those ones?
the four main abilities you get within the first hour because they're needed to.
Oh,
Oh
There, yeah,
wow.
it's basically like Breath of the Wild in that where the king is like, here's your tools, here's what you have to do, now go out. It's that same scenario
Sure.
in Here's the Kingdom where
okay,
someone you meet is like, you need to get all these powers before we can take you back to Hyrule. So you are in the
okay.
sky and you're going to different shrines to complete these because all these are unlocked through shrines and they're used in the shrines. And basically,
And that's how they teach you how to use
they
them and
they
everything.
usually
Yeah,
use them.
yeah.
There's no cooldown. It's basically as much as you want, you can use it, and that's probably the best thing they could have
Okay,
done. If they had put any cooldowns
sweet.
on it, it probably would have really ruined the experience. But
Well, it's like Breath of the Wild
exactly,
with those
it's
abilities. You could
basically
just
the
use them
Sheikah
as long
abilities.
as
Just they've swapped them now. Instead of Sheikah abilities, you're dealing with Zonai
Okay,
abilities because Zonai are now the main uh, ancient civilization you're dealing with. Like the Sheikah, where we know them, we know who they are, what they can do. They're more technology advanced at this point, but the Zonai who are the ones who created like the basics millions of years ago, or whenever the
yeah.
Hyrule, you know, back in the day began. But yeah, Ultra Hand, and then let's go back to Ultra Hand. Ultra Hand's probably the coolest. It's basically a way for you to. That's the one you want to use for when you want to maneuver through like a puzzle. You can pick up like say, um, you can pick up like a piece of wood, and then you can rotate it, land it on a couple rocks, and if you want to touch, so you find a couple wheels, you can attach the wheels to it by using Ultra Hand. So basically you can build things with Ultra Hand. So fusing is just for
Mhm.
weapons and um, shields. Ultra Hand is ways to build actual vehicles and combat vehicles, and basically there's a lot of this. You can create anything your mind thinks of with Ultra Hand because it's basically like a build mode. So you can really just whatever your mind can think of. It's probably something you can create in Tears of the Kingdom.
Is it easy to make those? Like just a basic boat, for instance. Is it easy to make one, or is it kind of just such a hassle that I would rather
No,
swim?
yeah.
no. Honestly,
Because in that demo, they're just like, "Oh, look, there's a fan here." It's like, well,
Right? It's like,
yeah,
okay, well, yeah, it's right. Like everything's just so happens to be here. But if I'm just,
just by
approaching a
chance.
random lake or an a river or something, is it
Yeah, like
just
how
easier
easy
for
is
me
well,
it
to
to
that
just
find
ties
things?
in. So that
Essentially,
ties
yeah.
into
yeah.
one of the side quests or the mini adventure. So basically, there is a construction crew that's going around restoring Hyrule. So you're going to be seeing Hyrule being restored throughout the game. So you're seeing like this crew going from
That's
province to
awesome.
province, and you're
I
always
like that.
finding like construction sets. So you'll find like leftover pieces of wood and metal and wheels and everything
And
you
you can
want to
take them
build is
with you.
always you can find it wherever you want because there's just like actual construction
Cool.
sites all over Hyrule. So
And can you take some of that
oh
stuff
yeah,
with you and and
it's
hold
there
it?
for you, right? So
Okay.
like it's obviously under the guise of construction, but what it is actually just a way for Link to build
Yeah.
if you want to build a boat.
Sure.
So like
Sure.
in the earliest uh hour basically for me, like I tried to swim across this like lake and I kept drowning. I'm like, well, obviously I have to build, so building is great. So basically it works really well. I think the biggest problem from the previews was a lot of people were unfamiliar with the controls, and that's probably what it
Yeah.
was. And I had the same
Hmm.
problem.
But do you feel like
I had the same problem within the first hour.
so?
Once I got comfortable with what was happening, I was like, this is so great. Like you can actually just create things as fast as you want.
Okay.
But there is
See,
the only
that was
caveat
going
I
to be
have
like my
was is
major question.
yeah,
Was that like starting from the game? Does it give you like the proper tutorial, and then it's just a matter of learning and using it over time
exactly.
to the fact that to the point where you're like comfortable with it?
Exactly what it is. It's
Okay.
pretty much like here's how you use it, and they'll give you time to build it as they're guiding you on what to do. But it really isn't as bad as the previous made it sound. It was I think it's just being rusty with the controls and being unfamiliar with what to do, and that's really what it is. The only caveat like I said I had was it is kind of stiff when you're rotating parts. So if you're trying to attach, like, so for example, you can attach these flame emitters to a piece of wood, and then you can find these hot air balloons anywhere around their map. So like basically what you can do is you can build a hot air balloon, hit these flame emitters to fly up in the air. So my biggest problem was just making sure that there was contact between the wood, the flame emitters, and that it hit the air balloon just right so it wouldn't damage Link. So it was just trying to get the perfect angle. But it's pretty easy. So if you mess up, you just jiggle the R stick until it unattaches, and you just reattach to like the peak angle that you're looking for. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so I guess when you're building stuff, I guess in a way there's like an invisible grid on each piece of equipment, wood, metal, the balloon, whatever it is. So like I assume you can't just put some like the balloon upside down on an angle or whatever. It's
You
like
can
it's
do
going to
it. It won't
attach.
work.
It won't work, sure, but I mean like when you put it down, like is it completely like I'm just trying to
It like
find a way to
snaps.
describe
I
it.
know what you
whatever
mean.
You attach it
Yeah.
It does snap to it. Okay, so there's like an invisible grid as opposed to just completely free form.
Exactly.
Sort of
Like,
I guess. Which is fine. I mean, that's totally fine. If they did freeform, things would be probably a disaster, and people would definitely be complaining about or have
really
trouble with it
plays
at least.
the physics system of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the
Okay.
Kingdom. Like, it's still probably one of the
Cool.
best physics games I've seen in a long time. They doubled down on that system and just made it all way much better in Tears of the Kingdom. So like, if you are someone who likes to break the physics, you're gonna have so much fun with the systems because it really lets you just get wild and just do what you want to do. And these powers, I think,
Well, that's
are
one
way
of
better
the
than the Sheikah abilities. I mean, if we have to switch, if I had to pick between Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom, I think these are way more fun to use for Link.
Well, that leads me to my next question. And one of the things I loved about Breath of the Wild was that it was that game where your imagination could just run wild. If it was like, I remember it took me like probably 30, 40 hours until I realized that if I was wearing something metal on me and there was a like lightning storm around me, I would conduct electricity. And it was just stuff like that. Like if you conceptualize the real world and real world logic and physics and stuff like that, it would all apply to that game. Is that kind of the same thing here? Where it's like, if you can think of it, if it should happen, it will happen, kind of
It's
thing.
exactly what it is. So like all that's back. Like that's actually one of the first warnings you get once you get to Hyrule. It's like make sure you have nothing with metal on it, otherwise you're going to get electrocuted. And similar,
it basically says warning: don't do the Steve thing. Like, is that
Yeah.
and then
High
if you like,
voltage.
and later on in the stages, like you're climbing, you have to climb this mountain that's just like freezing, and obviously they want you to start cooking food again, and making sure you have ice, heat or cold resistant food and all that stuff and clothing. But if you equip like a stick with a ruby, it generates fire. So you can just equip it, throw it on your back. You don't have to worry about half of that, right? You don't have to worry about food. It's smart. Like it's
nice.
just
Okay.
generating heat, and Link it's one less thing to worry about.
So just go find one of those. But does it
Wow.
tell you that it does that, or do you have to discover something?
It's all
like
discovery.
That? Like,
I think
I'm
those ones more discovery.
Okay, cool.
Like, I was climbing, and I was just trying to get to this next location, and then I was like, that's weird. I'm like, there's no health degeneration. Like Link's just climbing. He's not freezing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's
I've been
different?
told that it's super cold here. Why am I not freezing?
Yeah, and then
He lied. Fake
Link
news.
was literally wearing he was wearing like he was wearing just like a t-shirt and winter from the waist down. Like I was like, he should be freezing, but like he was fine. So like there's just things you're coming upon.
Cool.
And it's just like, okay, this is kind of familiar because I remember this was in Breath of the Wild, and you could just basically, like I said, don't wear anything metal, or if you're somewhere in, like say you're in the desert, you can equip like an ice the choo-choos or whatever they are, the ice choo-choo to your weapon now, and you can just walk through the desert with this thing on your back, and like you're perfectly fine. You're not sweating, like you're fine. You can manage the heat.
That's cool.
But this is like just the tip of the iceberg. Like there's just a lot of freedom. I mean, there's another ability. I mean, I know it hasn't really been talked about, but I've seen it online. But it's like the fifth ability that's kind of really cool. It's one of the most useful. So I mean, when you get to it, you'll see it. It's a purple icon. That's all I really want to say. Just I want everyone to experience it for themselves. But it's a really cool 5th ability.
And this one you get slightly later, not right off
Yeah,
in the
it's a
first
little bit
hour
farther down.
or
It's a
couple
little bit
hours.
farther down.
Okay.
It's like it's within the introductory quest. So like within like the first 5 or
Oh,
6
okay.
quests, like you should be getting it.
And you're finding all these abilities to be useful. Obviously, it
Basically,
sounds like
they're
you're
all
yeah you're
well, they're all crucial, right? So like these are all skills you
right.
need to defeat
Crucial. Yeah,
Ganon.
that's the way
So
I
like
put it. Yeah,
basically, it's like you need all these skills to if you want to fight Ganon, you need all these skills. You need to do all these things before you can even go to him. It's not like in Breath of the Wild where you can cheat the game and literally go fight him once you leave the Great Plateau. It's like it's gated
I
off.
was gonna ask if that was even possible this time around because I love those speed runs where people would just
just
go
straight.
nuts and just run straight and somehow beat the game within like 10
Yeah.
minutes.
What
I
the
wish
hell?
they did that, but I think I mean thematically it makes sense. Like Ganon is sealed off, like you've lost everything, so it's like really it kind of makes sense. So I'm kind of glad they stuck with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's what I wanted in a follow up. I like I said, it's not the new Legend of Zelda game that everyone wanted or whoever wanted it, but like to me, it's a brilliant follow up. I've had so much fun with it. I mean, it's a game where I've just been thinking about it all day, where I want to just go home and play it. I just want to keep going. I want to see what's going to happen next, and I haven't had that experience in a long time. I think the last time was God of War Ragnarok when I was like, I need
Sure.
to go home. I
Sure.
need to go finish this. I want to go see what's happening. And even with the Zelda style of narrative where it's very minimal, you kind of know what's going to happen. It's like I still want to experience it fresh. I want to just keep going on and seeing what's happening. And that's all I wanted from a Zelda game is just double down on the systems that made the first game, so beloved and one of the best in the series. And I think Nintendo and their developers nailed. Like it's a really 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 exciting game to be able to say I've played it and I think it's one of the best games that they've put out in like however long it's been. It's definitely the yeah.
Now,
Is
does
this
it?
good?
Yeah. Go ahead, Steve. Go
Sorry, I
ahead.
was just gonna say, is this gonna be looked at as like the game of the generation, like Breath of the Wild was? Is every developer gonna look at Tears of the Kingdom and say we need to adapt this in some way?
I think not as it won't be as um I don't want to say illustrious as Breath of the Wild. It's certainly up there, but Breath of the Wild is definitely the game that inspired a generation of developers with what they're doing. I think this is a little it's more of that. It's just a lot more refined. So I don't think it's going to hit that pinnacle of what Breath of the Wild did, but I mean, it has some good ideas that I think developers can pull from. It's mainly in the way everything's presented to you and the way that basically you're given all the tools from the start without you know the developer holding your hand, and there's still games that try
Or
to do
having to
that
jump
and
through too many
they kind of
hoops,
fail at
or
it.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I want more of.
So it sounds like it sounds like to me like we were just talked about Majora's Mask a few minutes ago, where it's like yes, they're different games, but they're sort of an extension of ideas in a
Right.
way. Maybe even this even more
Right.
so. But Ocarina of Time to Majora's Mask is it's the same engine, just like this is the same engine as Breath of the Wild, but there are elements of it that are improved and expanded upon, and that makes it in Majora's Mask case makes it a different game, but in this case, essentially, depending on your feelings between these
Right.
two games, makes it a better game or an expanded game, and
That's
that's a good
exactly
thing.
what it is.
So
It's expanded. It's better. I think. Honestly, if I tried to go back to Breath of the Wild, I know I still have a great time. But like coming from this, going back to that, it's like I don't want to. They've really
right,
nailed all the aspects
well,
they
that's
needed to
good.
nail. Like combat's better. It's still the same, but like things like flurry attacks and dodging, like I believe those used to take stamina. So like that mean those are gone. So like Link can now dodge and parry, and like stamina is not affected anymore. So like you have more time to plan what you're gonna do. That's a big game changer for me because like stamina was a big boon. Or
So is there no stamina
no,
at
no, it's
all?
still there. Like you're still
Just not in combat.
it's gone from combat. So like combat's a little bit more
Okay.
versatile. It's definitely a lot harder than Breath of the Wild. So if you didn't like combat in Breath of the Wild, you're not gonna love it here. It's a lot more challenging. It's probably closer to like a Dark Souls game than any of the other games before, and you have to kind of just learn patterns, have the right weapons, and just learn when to parry, when to dodge, when to go ranged. Like there's all these things that you have to remember now, and
Yeah.
it's all the better for it. Like Link is just like a one-man army with this game, and rightfully so, right? He's the hero of time. So like you finally feel like you're the hero of time. You can do all these things, you have all these powers, and it's like finally I can step into his shoes and kind of understand what his responsibilities are, because like you are finally, like I said, it's finally just the gameplay matches the lore. I can put it that way.
Okay.
Right.
Aside from gameplay and story and everything, but what's performance like?
It's
I was thinking
surprisingly
the same
better.
thing. Yeah.
So I believe there were like a preview session about 3 weeks ago that I saw that it looked rough. They patched it, so like I received a patch about a week ago, and it's been pretty solid. Like there's very little hiccups. I think I've had one, and that's only when you're using Ultra Hand when you're trying to build something. But other than that, it's been steadily consistent. I know that it's at 30 frames and like 900p, so it's not obviously 1080, but it's solid. It's a lot better than Breath of the Wild performed at launch. So they've clearly
Okay.
learned that that was something they need to work on, and it's a lot better. I still really wish that it was, even 60 frames. That's all I would ask for this game, is just 1080 at 60. And I actually got it. I forced it once to be at 60 frames on my TV, and it was fantastic. I don't know what I did on my
Ah.
TV, some kind of setting I messed up, but like I played for about an hour and 60 frames, and it was just like, this is so buttery smooth. I really wish they figured out how to do this. I don't know what I did, how it happened, but for that hour, it was like,
It's
this
never
is
gonna happen
incredible.
again.
And Nintendo didn't even know that you could do that. Now you're going to jail for
I
whatever
probably
hack
will.
you
Like,
just implemented in that
Gary
game.
Bowser's coming for me.
He's coming for
Oh
all of
man,
us.
it's
Bobby
no,
first.
like that's my one like just little nitpick is like that 30 frames. Like it doesn't hurt it, but it would do so much better
Right.
at 30 or 60
So
frames.
you played a mixed, you played a mixed on TV and handheld,
Yeah,
I guess it
I did
sounds like.
both. So I think even handheld, obviously it's an OLED screen, so like it'll still look great at
Yeah.
700p.
Yeah.
No performance, it's just nothing. Like it's so smooth. Like it's the controls feel a little bit complicated at first, but once you overcome that hurdle, like even in handheld, like it doesn't feel like it's overwhelming. Like you can kind of just like, okay, well I need to do this, so here's this button. I have to do I go R1 just because PlayStation my thing, but I do like
Yeah.
RB or LB or whatever, or RB. Sorry, I think that's what it's called. So I go RB just to pull up the menu of all my abilities. I'll pick which one I need, and it's just like a radio menu. It's all quick on the fly, and you can kind of swap between them. It's a lot better. The menus were improved to the point where it's just like everything just is a lot more streamlined. Everything just flows better in the game. So like they learned on these things. It's all these quality of life improvements that they focused on
That's good.
in Tears of the Kingdom. It's just like the small things which I think needed to get adjusted, and they listened. So Nintendo,
Well, there's so many systems. Yeah, there's so
that's
many
exactly it.
systems in Breath of the Wild, and in this, if they streamline and sort of do quality of life, like you say, that alone already makes it an improved game.
Cooking
right
is a perfect example. So like I can talk about
Okay.
cooking. So cooking before, like you obviously, I hated cooking in this game. I know it was in like a very intricate part of Breath of the Wild, but you needed to remember what recipes did what. So like, how do you
Yeah.
remember? You had to write them down or
Right.
look them up. In this game here, you actually get a recipe book. So if you start talking to
Oh,
people
thank God.
and they give you they'll give you recipes. So you can like look at your menu and just be like, okay, I have a piece of meat. What does it do? So you can do like select recipes. So it pulls up everything that piece of meat could be turned into with the other
Okay,
ingredients. So
nice.
then you can just select it from there, and it'll pull all the ingredients in Link's hands, and you just cook them on the spot.
Oh,
It's so
okay.
much
Cool.
better.
That
It's a
I
great
like.
really like that.
accessibility feature because I know someone
That's
who hates
like,
that stuff.
that's the simplest system. It's a simple system, and it's like what did I play late last? Oh, I played Cult of the Lamb late last year that had a very similar. You find a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff when you go out, and then you go to the area where you make your food, and you just click on what you want to make based on what your inventory is. Like,
Right.
I don't need to think about it. I know that I might need those pieces, so I might say, "Oh, hey, look, I found the fish or whatever while I was out there. Great. Now I know when I get back,
Yep.
I can use that for something." But I'm not good. I'm not remembering.
See,
Like, come on.
that's cool for one game when you do that and you're meticulously going through for Breath of the Wild. Doing it again, I would be like, come on.
Yeah, on such huge games too, right? Like
Yeah.
that's the thing. If there were shorter experiences, But
Sure.
let's be
Yeah.
honest, I'm not going to have a notebook beside me. I know that for me, from what I can remember from Breath of the Wild, I just had like a couple that I could remember, and I just
That's
kept
exactly
using
it.
those over and
But
over and
you don't need
over,
to
and that
do
was
that
it.
anymore. Now it's
And
just
that kind of
basically
defeats the
like,
purpose.
hey, you go to a stable and you can talk to somebody and they'll give you a piece of food with a recipe attached to it. So you're like, okay,
Great.
now I have it in my recipe book. So like that is such a big savior for someone like me who, like I said, I hated the cooking system. So like I didn't use it. I just bought whatever I needed and that was it. Well, now it's like, okay, well now I'm invested in cooking. I want to go cook. So like you can so like just to backtrack a bit, the Zonai, like there are, I know you guys have maybe seen the Nintendo preview where it's like, what are these mysterious vending machines that are spread out against Hyrule? And it looks like a big vending machine with like, remember the gumball drop machines?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
So
Okay. I've
basically,
seen,
yeah.
yeah. I see
I
Yep.
mean,
that.
it's
Yep.
not a
Yep.
spoiler. It's just it's something that you come across within the first hour. It's a Zonide device vending machine. So basically, you can fight constructs, which are like the Zonai themed enemies. They'll drop Zonai charges and like construct horns, and basically you take them, and it's like the cooking mini game. So basically, you put all these parts together, you throw them in the little slot where your coin would normally go, and then it'll give you items. So you can vend items like uh, instant one use cooking pots for the world. You can do air balloon pieces. So if you need to build an air balloon in a pinch, you just pull the item from your inventory. There's ones where you could do
I
like
see.
you have your paraglider, but then there's a new item where it's like a bird from the zone I built. So basically, you can attach rockets to it, and it's like a jetpack rocket that you can fly across the islands on. So you can just pull this stuff from your inventory. It's just like a one-time use
Sick.
bunch of items like that. That was a pretty cool addition, and it
That's
streamlines
cool.
a lot of solutions. So it's basically like, how do I get there? Okay, I have the item in my backpack. I can pull it up, one-time use, get from this island to there, and that's basically it.
Can you have more than one of those at a
You can have,
time?
yeah,
Because
I think
some
it's like
games don't.
99 of each item. It's just like Breath of the
Oh
Wild. So
shit.
it's like
Okay.
you can stock
Great.
up.
All right. Great.
But yeah, there's just, and Tears of the Kingdom is basically, like I said, it's a tool chest, and you're the problem solver. You can solve any problem the game throws at you just by what's in your inventory, regardless of what you're doing. There's so much
That's
freedom
great.
in this game to just approach it how you want. So if you don't want to deal with the main quest, there's so much side stuff you can go explore. There are memories to go find. There are geoglyphs that you need to go explore to find other memories that are tied to another storyline. Like there's just so much to do. Like I can't remember in Breath of the Wild, so you guys might have to remind me. It's been so long.
It's been a
It's
while
been
for
like
me.
3 or 4 years for me, just because it's you know how it is. Just games. There's too many games, but
Me too. Actually, I think it has
yeah. So
been.
like side quests,
Yeah.
I don't remember if they
Yeah.
were
It's over
tied
them too.
intricately into the main quest in Breath of the Wild.
No.
No, I don't. That I don't remember them
Yeah.
being.
So in this game,
Yeah.
like they're way more, one for one. So like there are certain quests that like tie into the main quest, or certain quests that spin off from that pull you into a different direction, but are still tied to the main quest and
Oh, cool.
what Ganon's been doing and what these other people you're meeting are doing. So like it's a lot more intricate. It's a lot more tight, the storyline this time, because of the way it's been designed. So like you can go, yeah,
That's cool. That's
it's a
good.
lot better. I think it's a lot better for like it feels. I don't.
What what's that problem where it's just like in these open world games, it's like, there's probably a term for it that I'm not thinking of. It's like, oh, the world's coming to an end, but oh, hey, Bobby lost his dog. I'm gonna go help Bobby.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
oh,
like Fallout
you know,
4 or Fallout
Yeah,
3, where it's like, oh, where's my dad? I gotta go to Washington D.C., but I'm just
yeah,
gonna help this old lady with her rat
yeah.
problem.
It's just, I mean, it's a lot of games. That's
Yeah.
I think we've just sort of accepted it. But if they are linked in some way, which I think a lot of us sort of said, like that's why a lot of the God of War stuff worked. Not all of it, but
Right.
a lot of it did. Was that it had meaning, and it was linked to a character moment, or it was linked to the main story in some way. And if if a game like this that gives you so much freedom also has these types of quests linked to it, that's
there's
great.
yeah,
That's
like
awesome. Maybe
it's
it's not
staggering. It's really
direct, but
staggering
close
what
enough.
they've done. Like I think
Yeah.
they really did a bang up job just listening to feedback, making what worked work better, made the storyline tighter, giving it some depth. Because I mean, for what it was, Breath of the Wild was great. The storyline was very thin, and just because the way the game was structured,
Eh,
there's none of that here. I mean, to me myself, I mean, I could be wrong just because reviews are objective and so but
Sure.
for what I wanted and what I expected, like it really delivered whatever I had as a checklist. Like it checked off everything I wanted and there's all the follow up. So like that's great. If we want to talk about other things that the game has done fantastic, I mean, personally, I like the Divine Beast. If you guys want to talk about that, like Breath of the Wild's Divine Beast world are kind of like I guess we can call them puzzle boxes, the rotating puzzle boxes. Like they were cool. I like what they did.
I like
But
them, yeah.
5 years later, 6 years later, I'm hearing people say I didn't like them. I really wish they went back to the traditional dungeons. But I don't think, given what Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom have become, I don't think that's possible anymore. So you're given the next best thing, right? I call it the Divine Beast Plus. So announced today.
Get your subscription today.
Exactly, right?
$5.99
So
a
basically,
month.
it's like we can talk about it just because
$9.98 a month. It's a
$9.98 a
deal.
month. Well, it's $89.99 in Canada, guys. So let's.
Yeah.
But
Right.
yeah, so it's a mix of tradition and the new sort. So like you're getting something that kind of feels familiar, and I think it's probably the best of both worlds. Like you're getting, you're still going to these beautiful locations, like, and I'm just gonna give a shout out right now. The Wind Dungeon, probably my favorite. I guess journey to get there.
All right, make a note. Make a note.
You'll
Right.
you'll know what I'm saying, and because of where this place is, like you're dealing with the Ritu. So shout out to Tulin, the cutest little bird boy ever, bird girl. I don't know if it's a boy or girl. Actually, that's probably my fault. But you basically journeying out for these main story quests with like these people. So like you have like a lot of the returning characters like Ritu and a couple of the others who are joining you on your trek there. So like you're learning to talk to them and like you're getting to know these people. Whereas in the first game you didn't have any of that. So like that's another that's another plus in my book, was like there's a lot more character growth in this game with the supporting cast, which I don't remember having in the first game. That's I guess
Yeah, it's kind of
like,
you meet them, you help them, you move on, sort of.
That was
Yeah.
kind of
but
it.
yeah, there's just so much they're doing well.
yeah.
Like the dungeon. So like don't like another thing is saying is don't go in expecting small keys and the boss keys. Those are
Okay.
not there anymore. Like you're just now, here's the place you have to go. There's a series of puzzles you have to solve to get to the boss, which I think is perfectly fine. Like,
Works
it
for
works
me.
for me, right? They're not stupid puzzles. They're a lot of fun to figure out because like once you figure it out, you're like, wow, I kind of cheese this one.
But now you don't have to get a key at the end.
No,
of
you
it
don't
for
have to
it
get a key.
for it
Like
to
you can
feel
cheese the
rewarding.
puzzles. Like I
Yeah.
cheesed one where I just couldn't find a piece of what I was looking for, so like I grabbed like an icicle and I fused it to something and it worked. So like there are solutions
Nice.
that are not traditional, and you can just bypass these puzzles by your own creativity, which
Yeah,
That's
that's cool.
great.
Even within like a dungeon like that,
yeah,
that's
like
cool.
there
that
you
it's
have the
possible.
freedom to solve it however you want with the tools you're given. It's a great sense of autonomy. Like that's what I think Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom excels at, is the sense of autonomy you're given to do things and figure them out on your own terms. And that's
Well, that was similar to Breath of the Wild as well, where you go into the shrines and it was like, okay, well, I know the way Nintendo wants me to beat this, but I can also just use X, Y,
Do
and
it.
Z
Yeah,
out of
that's
my
exactly what it
pocket
is.
and just figure it out on my own.
There's way more of that in this game, just because I mean that's the whole physics system built into it, right? So I personally love the Sheikah shrines in Breath of the Wild. So they're no longer called the Sheikah shrines; they're now the Zonai shrines, because all of those have vanished. With whatever Ganon's done, the Zonai shrines have returned. Like they're spread out all over Hyrule. There's some in the sky that you have to actually find out and get to through either the Sky Towers, which are the new versions of the Sheikah Towers, which are pretty damn cool actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're a lot more fun. The shrines themselves, like I've read online just because obviously I'm trying to. I was writing my review. I was just kind of seeing what the general consensus is online. What are people saying? What do they think about it? And the best way for me to figure that out was go to a spoiler thread where people have talked about the spoilers and the leak happened a couple weeks ago and just compare what I'm thinking to what they're saying. And the general consensus, I really think the new Zonai shrines, they're not, maybe I don't want to say they're as advanced as the Sheikah uh, shrines, but they're a lot of fun. Like you can really, like, there's one example. You have to use fuse and these Zonai rockets, which I'm sure you guys have seen in the preview, where like you hit them and they jettison up into the sky. So you have to figure out how to get a piece of wood over this hurdle. You have to find a way to get the rockets to the main room, and then you have to attach them to the piece of wood, and you have to grab a flame emitter to attach it as well, and then you have to hit it all three at the same time to get to the top. So the rocket will jettison you to the halfway point, and then the flame emitter will get you to the top half where you can get to the end of the shrine. So it's trying to figure out the order of operations with all the shrines.
Yeah, the
It's so
combination.
cool. Like there's a lot of freedom in those as well. There's one, no spoilers, of course, obviously, but like, man, there's so much fun. It's just so hard to talk about them. Like there's one where you have a mine like a mine cart, and there's these tracks that you have to attach that to, and then you're like, how do I get across? Because it's a big gap. So then you kind of look around the room, and there's like a pile of rockets there. You have to attach to the cart, and you have to hit them in a specific order, otherwise you're gonna fall into the depths. So it's like, okay, if I hit this one first, what's gonna happen? So you have to experiment and see which order works to get across, otherwise Link dies.
Right.
And it just, there's just a lot of variety. Like the shrines are so much fun. Like there's only about I think there's 100 there. What I saw online. So there's
only 100.
it comes out
Child's
quickly.
play.
Like, they're not long. They're like 5 minutes. But like, yeah,
I'll be done that in a day.
everything's fun. Everything is so much fun. Like I have so few complaints about what this game has done wrong. It's just I've been focusing on what it's done right, and how it's been like, it's clear labor of love for these people. Like they knew from the get-go that this is not going to be a one-part story with Breath of the Wild, so they knew they had the time and the resources to build and expand on these systems. So it's like everything that they've done in the last 6 years, it's like, wow, this is way more than that expansion that everyone's calling this as Breath of the Wild 2. This is way more than expansion. It is a brand new game through and through. Like you have new weapons, you have new locations, you have new characters, you have new gear, you have everything new. Everything is new. Like there's nothing that kind of returns from the first game that I'm like, okay, well, this isn't just like a time constraint. Like they really put the work in to give you new weapons, new everything.
Sure.
Like, it feels like a fully fledged game. And to hear someone say that it's just an expansion, like there's no way. There's absolutely no way.
Yeah.
Even that,
Just because it's the same engine doesn't mean it's an
It's
expansion.
exactly it. Like there's just so much.
Same engines are used all the time.
That's exactly it. Like there's just so much that I'm saying, like I have so much praise for, but there are still a couple things that I think I have gripes with. So like one is just like, maybe it's just the way I played. I in my review I said basically I didn't like the Sky Islands. I kind of wanted something more like Skyloft and how it was in Skyward Sword, but it's not that. And to think that's what it is, you're going to be let down. But all the Sky Islands are basically puzzles. So if you're going up into the sky, expect to do puzzles to get from island to island. So you might be stuck there for a while because you're like, how do I get there? And my problem was like, I'm stuck. How do I get to that next island there? Because if I glide, I'm obviously don't have enough stamina to get there. How do I get that? How do I get to that next point? So it isn't until further in the game when you have more power-ups. Like there are things I haven't even talked about that you unlock in combat. There are new abilities that are just like, this is amazing. Like once you get these power-ups later down in the game and you start getting through the dungeons, you're like, okay, now I know how to get from point A to point B and get from this island to there. And it's like, that's kind of what kind of set it back, because that's what kind of held you back is the power-ups, which I don't know if that's a valid complaint or not, but for me it's kind of like, if you're putting me in the sky in the opening hours, I would like to have a way to get there and back from the beginning.
Yeah, easier or simpler or whatever. Yeah, that's fair. The Sky Islands, I mean, they seem like a really cool,
gorgeous. They're so gorgeous.
New place to go. So yeah.
Yeah, and then the other thing that I really had a disappointment on was just like, guys, like it's Nintendo. It's 23, we need like a 4K device. Like this game is so beautiful and gorgeous. It is held back by the technology that's powering it. Like
Yeah.
I can see why people are trying to emulate it and pirate it now, and I don't approve of that. I condone piracy 100%, but like I can see why people are trying to play it on a powerful computer because like it's so beautiful even at 1080p.
Want to see it in a different system so that you can really not appreciate it, but you can really show off really what they created. I mean, really, that's what we want. We know that they can create awesome worlds and looking characters and environments to explore and stuff. Like it would be nice, it sounds like, to just get that like we do with other consoles or
That's
PC
exactly
at this
it.
point.
Like there's like
so
sorry, go ahead.
the next console they'll re-release it and then we'll really get it is what they're gonna they're gonna another $100 from you is what they're gonna do.
Yeah, it's just
easy.
like,
that's an easy purchase.
And it's probably gonna happen. Let's be honest. And we're gonna do it.
Like, I'm shocked. Like I know that there's always been talk of a Switch Pro and blah blah blah, but like 2023 and like the technology, it's just such a bottleneck at this point for Nintendo. Like I want to pay the Nintendo tax on a worthy system. Like at this point, it's like we need it. The Nintendo needs it. If they're gonna have Metroid Prime 4, like the next Zelda game, like I want to play that on a game that can run 4K 60 frames in my hands. And now you have like the ROG, the Asus ROG, and you have the Steam Deck, and these devices are capable of doing that. So it's like, why isn't Nintendo, not working towards that? And to be fair, we don't know what they're working on.
Probably. Yeah, and those probably exist largely because the Switch came around. Right?
I wouldn't be surprised.
They are improvements on what the 100%, Switch is.
And like I'm really tempted to just like do what people are doing and experience it on a computer, but like really, I mean,
right?
I've seen what the game looks like at 8K. Like I've had that experience where I saw someone playing Breath of the Wild at 8K, and they modded some things like more wildlife, more grass, and like I was like, this is beautiful. Like if this was what Nintendo released, oh my god, this is what it blows my mind that it's just like in 2023 that we're just like we're dealing with this game where it's beautiful to its core. It's just it's bottlenecked by its technology that it's running on, and like no shade to Nintendo in this game. Like it's just like it deserves better hardware. But yeah, I mean, all in all, like there's just so much to love about this game. I don't know if you guys completed the Eventide Island or the Shrouded Shrine, those special, like I guess they're like themed shrines that are kind of tucked away in like the corners in Breath of the Wild. But
I think so. I don't remember.
I don't
like
remember.
One
honestly,
that was like
I don't track
like,
what everything's called.
Yeah, like they were special, like themed, like shrines that like were like very, very, very like late game. You had to finish them. But there's nothing like that kind of I found through the world. There was still obviously lots to find and to explore, but like those moments where I was like, oh wow, these are really cool shrines. Like there's nothing kind of like where I was like, wow, these are on par with those, because those are really, really, really memorable shrines in Breath of the Wild. And in terms of what I didn't like, it was just the caves. Like the caves, like there are over 100 caves that you're gonna find and explore. They all kind of look and feel the same. It's not like Elden Ring. Elden Ring really excelled at that. Like I know they had like the tombs and like the monuments and stuff like when you went underground. I kind of wish they leaned more into that, but it's just like you go into the cave, you grab like bombs because they're back. You can just find bomb flowers. You can find like chill shrooms, which like you eat to prevent heat stroke and all that. And then you collect a couple items and you go back up, and that's basically it. And it was like, okay, well, it's just an extra thing to do. It's just something you add on your checklist.
Right.
Sure.
To collect a couple things.
There is one thing I can't wait to hear
Yeah.
what you guys think about. And I mean, it's something you come across, I'd say within the first 5 hours. And it leans into that cave thing. I don't want to get into it much, but like it's a really cool.
Does the game turn into voxels and now you're playing Legend of
Yes,
Minecraft?
Legend of Minecraft.
Is that what happens?
No, so
Okay.
yeah. No, I wish.
You just keep going down and down, the graphics get worse and worse.
Honestly, that would be cool.
Yeah.
But no,
I mean, they've done it.
there is something that's like, wow, they actually went there. And like it's really cool.
Okay.
It's really unexpected. And I'm like, if you like the combat, you'll probably like what this is, because it's a very combat
okay.
heavy experience. It ties into the theme of what the evil has done to the world, so it ties into the theme and the story beautifully. It's just, like I said, if you don't like the combat, this is definitely not something you're gonna like, because it's a very, very intricate piece of the combat that you
Cool.
stumble on.
That's fun. And is that something you stumble upon, or something that's part of the story?
It's something I stumbled upon, and before the story, kind of told me what it was. So like, this kind of ties into one of my stories where I got stuck in a well in this game, and I was like, how the fuck do I get out of here? Because really, you're stuck in a well.
You can't
There's like a ladder or a way to get out of it, right? But then
it's gonna be like the Simpsons thing. Dig up, stupid. Like one of
That's exactly what it was. I'm like, can I dig? Can I do anything? And then I was like, oh my god,
can I dig up?
I'm like, I have ascend. I can just fly out to the top. But in this case here, I got stuck in that situation. And then it devolved into something where I was like, I'm not prepared for this. I died instantly, and that's when I was like, wow, this is really cool. But yeah, that's all I really want to say. I just can't wait to see when you guys discover what I'm talking about, because it's really freaking cool.
I'm excited.
I can't wait.
Steve, we're pumped, man. We're pumped.
Yeah. No, I put a tweet out yesterday. I was like, tomorrow, or as this episode is published, I'm seeing Blink-182 tonight, and then coming home, and then it's Tears of the Kingdom, baby. Like,
yeah, there you go.
What a good start to the weekend.
What a
It's
weekend.
a good weekend. Like, sorry, moms, because like really, they really launched it on like the worst weekend because it's Mother's Day.
Or it's great because they get a break. The mom gets a break, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Fair. I mean,
fair.
Taking them out.
A break. They get a break.
I was planning on taking mine out, so it's like, really, sorry, mom. Like, I got Zelda to work with. Sorry. So it's like,
sorry, I have to.
I'll order some Chinese food and we'll have a quick dinner. But I gotta get back to saving the princess.
Yeah,
it's just gonna be all about the tears of the mothers.
Tears of the motherland.
One's taking them out. Sad times for moms everywhere.
Yeah. So
all right,
that's basically it. I mean, I
yeah.
think. I mean, once the game's out, I mean, if you guys want to, we should definitely revisit this and see what you guys think. But like, I mean,
yes,
for what it is,
will.
My rating usually a recommend or not recommended, but my review is going to be editor's choice. Like, this is a game that I think is just so refined and necessary to play. It really, 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 really delivers on what Breath of the Wild did and doubles down on what made it great. So as a follow-up sequel, this is exactly what I wanted. It might not be the Zelda game you're looking for, but I mean, honestly, give it a shot. It really is a welcoming game. Like, you feel very autonomous in this game. You can really, you can engage with this game if you're creative. If you're a creative mind, you're gonna have a lot of fun with this game. It offers you
shit.
I know. Sorry, Luke. Sorry, Luke.
Sorry.
Wow, he's not even here to defend himself.
I know. That's the best thing about it. We'll tag him tomorrow.
Jeez.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's an editor's choice for me. I mean, it's rare. The last 3 games I think I gave that to was Pentiment and God of War Ragnarok, and I can't remember the third game. So yeah, that tells you it is one of those games where, I mean, God bless.
Must have been good.
It was a while ago. I think the last time I gave it editor's choice was God of War 2018. So it's been a while.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, hey, you know what? The whole world's going to be getting their hands on it. It sounds like tens of millions of copies of God knows how many. People are going to be playing this game, which is great. And Steve will be amongst them. And in the next few weeks, several weeks, we'll revisit this as the weeks go on. Whether it's every week, every couple of weeks, whatever, we'll figure it out. But Steve, I want to, before we let everybody go, I want to touch base because I haven't been here since Star Wars Jedi Survivor came out, and we've both been playing it. And I just want to touch on a couple things, I guess, just how we're sort of feeling about it. You spoke about it last week, so I heard your thoughts a little bit about it last week. I am now, oh man, I should pull it up on the app exactly how much time I am into it, but I am thoroughly enjoying it. I am definitely enjoying it. And similar to what Bobby's been saying about Tears of the Kingdom, this is an improvement on the first title in many, many ways, if not every way. I honestly think that everything that's been in this game so far, for me, I haven't rolled credits or anything on it, but it is a vast improvement in some levels, and it's also refinement in others. And that's exactly what you want. It looks better, it plays better, it sounds great. I mean, Star Wars kind of always sounds great, but the acting is once again very, very good. The character moments are better and more fleshed out, which is great, which is exactly what I wanted after reading the book that was right in between these two. So that was great. So I was kind of waiting for certain moments, and then one of them popped up the other day. I was like, there it is. Okay. Overall, I'm really liking it. I like where the story's going. I think I have an idea, but I also think I'm going to be surprised at some point. I feel like something's coming. I just don't know what it is yet towards the end. But I'm going to pull up on the app to see exactly how far I am. But I'm not going to spoil it. But I have just rescued someone / something, and had another encounter against a previous other person with a lightsaber.
If it's not Grogu, I don't care.
Okay.
So that's all I can.
It's not Grogu.
Well, then
it's
this
not
game
Grogu.
is
But
already
I care
a
because
bomb
this
to me. It's a big bomb if there's no
I
Grogu.
care because this new character is awesome. So saving them, I won't even say if it's a he or she, but saving them was a lot of fun. I just did that today. So Steve, how far are you, or did you wrap up? How's it been in the last week?
I've wrapped. I've rolled credits on the game. Now I get to put. I did what I wanted to do, which was beat the game, and now just have it as like my taster for when I'm not, feeling Tears of the Kingdom first, or I need like a little break. I can go back to Jedi Survivor in the months down the road and just kind of go back to it, get collectibles, stuff like that. But
right.
To your point, I wholeheartedly agree. I think this is the definitive, like, true sequel that I think fans really wanted out of Fallen Order. I think everything from just the level design to where you even go, the character dynamics, the powers, everything of Jedi Survivor is so refined from the previous game that kudos to Respawn. I know exactly what you're talking about in terms of where you're at, and I think that is one of the raddest sequences in a video game I think I've played in quite some time. The music hits so hard. Like that feels
the
like
desert
a true
moment. Is it like the desert thing?
And
that I did a couple days ago, and that was
and
awesome.
You're getting like such cool character dynamics through that, where at first I was like, are they really doing this? But then it just pays off. There's one sequence where they're just standing next to each other, just doing their thing. I was like, oh hell yeah, I'm all about this. I'm all about these characters.
And
together.
Those were the two that I was looking. That character in particular with Cal was what I was looking for the most, based on the story elements in the book that I read previously, because a lot of that relationship is developed in that and explained, and it's excellent. It's excellent. So that was fun.
So I haven't read the book. I've read the synopsis, kind of just got the gist of it and everything. And I will say that I think Survivor pays off that relationship just through and through. I was really impressed by where they go with Cal and the character, like the ensemble as a whole, like people who know Fallen Order coming into this game, you get a lot of great payoffs. It's an interesting end to the story. Again, no spoilers, don't even want to like really touch on it for you, but I'm interested in where they go from here, because lore wise and like timeline wise, this game happens along the same time as Obi-Wan, and just kind of knowing like where Obi-Wan ends off and what the themes of that series are talking about, the hidden path and the remaining Jedi and everything. It's like, okay, very, very interesting to see where an inevitable third game is going to go. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to you wrapping up, because there are still quite a few awesome Star Wars moments in this game where I'm like, oh my god, the music, the just what's happening on screen. I was like, yes, I'm all about this. Really enjoyed this game. I think the biggest drawback that for me takes it from being a potential like 9 to maybe an 8 or a strong 7 is the frames.
That's what I've heard.
See, I've had zero issues. Not even through cutscenes, nothing. I have had no problems from the start, and I'm
jealous.
I got to be 20 something hours into this thing, and I've had nothing.
And you're on PlayStation. I'm on Xbox Series X. Just so people out there know. I'm I was struggling consistently to hit 60 frames, and at a certain point, I was like, "It's so unstable. I'm just gonna drop it down to quality mode just so I can get like capped 30,
Sure.
um, to like stable all the way through." And I was like, "Man," because when it hits 60, it's such a nice looking game.
Oh, it's beautiful. I mean, really, they really, and it's similar to actually even just looking at screenshots or looking at the video of Tears of the Kingdom. It's like with this, when you just look at the environment that's around you, whether you can actually reach all the pieces and all the background that you can see, like doesn't really matter. But all the
Right.
detail in every last little piece of environment that you're looking at, interacting with, or not, is awesome. That in itself, and then there's all these different like environmental effects that you have to sort of work around that are whether it's
Mhm.
like wind or electricity or like all these types of things that you kind of expect in games like this where there's a
Yeah.
traversal and combat and stuff like that, but just the way it sounds and the way they look is the presentation of it all is awesome
Yeah.
and very Star Wars. And I think that this is a really good for anyone that is tired of the same 50 years of Star Wars that we've seen for the last 50 years. I get it, but this game in particular, and I know not everyone's going to see this story, not everyone's going to play this game that are Star Wars fans or vaguely interested in Star Wars, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. It does a really good job of blending uh, timelines and way in the past and in the future, and sort of finding a great way to make it
Oh
all make
yeah.
sense in this particular point of time that not I don't really think that anything else has done before. And yes,
No.
they have dozens and dozens of hours to do this, as opposed to something like Obi-Wan or a 3-hour movie has a time to do. So I get that. But that's the advantage to video games, and that's why this is, I think, something special so far with the story, at least as far as I'm concerned. And I think it plays great. I still think I love how it doesn't waste its time having you have to relearn all your abilities again.
Yeah.
Everything
No.
you learned in the first game, you get from
Mhm.
step one. And it helped that I replayed the first game just a few months ago because I was like, yep, I got this. Like, no problem. So it was one of those things that I think there was an advantage there. But all the new stuff is really fun. A bunch of different stances, which I think a lot of people have seen already at this point or have heard of. Those are really great. I think the one in particular, which is the one with the Kylo Ren type saber, what's that called again?
The cross
Um,
guard.
Crossguard. That thing
Yeah.
is baller, man.
So
It's
sick. I
so
love that
much
one.
fun.
Oh
Yeah.
Yeah.
man.
I'm usually the person who likes being like the quick type of attack and everything, but it's essentially like using a broadsword in the game. That's
Right.
really what it is.
It's slow, but it's so effective. I really love just the
Yeah.
animation styles of it.
Yeah, it's cool how like it's a lightsaber and it always weighs the same, yet when he holds it, he's holding it like it's a heavy sword. And just like something, just a simple little detail like that, which sound maybe it's a little silly that he does that. Maybe just hold it like he normally holds it. I don't know.
Like the
Maybe it
game.
does get
Sorry, is it
heavier.
like the
What do I
movie?
know?
So it's like the way it's held in the movie.
Yeah, it's very
Like
similar.
like
Yeah.
Kylo holds it. Yeah,
Okay.
He holds
exactly.
it kind of like to his side, like to off his hip and stuff. Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. Maybe they are heavier. I don't know, but but it's a really cool way of changing up that, and the other stances really change your approach. I wish you could maybe have like a wheel of maybe like 3 or 4 stances as opposed to just 2. But
That's
I
so
do
true.
understand kind of just having 2 and sort of forcing you to kind of switch between when you want. So I kind of jump between the 2. So there is some variety there either way. But I think I've pretty much used 3 stances for the most part, I would say, since I found that. So.
Once I got the cross guard, I was like, this is it. I go to the standard one if I want to be a little quick, but yeah,
Mhm.
the whole complaint about not having more stances is kind of a detriment to the game because I barely use the dual lightsaber, the
The
one with
the
the
dual hand
pistol.
one, yeah. The pistol one, I wanna explore more. I do like that idea. I like having
Yeah.
a ranged option like that. I didn't expect a stance or abilities like that, so that was kind of cool that you could do that. So I do want to use that more. Whether it's viable or not is a whole other thing, depending on your play style. I initially, even in the first one, didn't really like the dual blade
Me neither.
on
Yeah.
a blade on either side. Just today, I kind of got a feel for it a little better, and I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's just the situation I was in. Maybe it's just that point in the game where it made the most sense, and I felt like I was getting a lot done and be more successful.
Sorry, do you mean dual blade, like one in each
No,
hand,
the one
or
on each side,
the
yeah.
Darth Maul? Oh, see,
Darth Maul style, yeah.
I love the Darth Maul. I don't like the one in each hand kind of thing. I was like,
Eventually, I learned to not really like
okay.
that, actually,
Yeah.
in this one. It's like the first one that you get, or one of the first ones you get,
Yeah.
and it's fun to experiment with it and stuff, but I find that the power of it is so low that the fights last a lot longer than I kind of
Right.
want them to, and I'm just like, okay, well, I can still do cool stuff and interesting things with the Force, and my other lightsabers, I'm just going to use the standard one, which the standard one is still a lot of fun, just like it was in the first one. So, yeah, I love this game so far. I'm really, really happy to keep going, and I'm not sure how many extra things I'm going to get, but I'm getting as many as I can as I go along, and they do a really good job of sort of directing you to new areas that you couldn't unlock previously within that same planet, and then going and being able to fight new enemies or discover new things or help other people. Like the rumors thing is kind of cool. Like all that kind of stuff is kind of fun. So yeah, Jedi Survivor. I'm definitely giving it a thumbs up. And Steve, sounds like you have a similar feel. So
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Bobby, your turn now. So go for it. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll get to it. I have. It's a game that
you've been busy, as we've heard. You've been busy. It's all good, man.
I do want to play it. It's just like, damn, it really. It came at a really bad time. I think I really wish they kind of delayed it just a little bit longer. Like July would have been perfect, but whatever. I'll get to it.
It's all good, man. You'll get to it. It's not going anywhere, and it'll be a really fun game to
like we said before the show. I really want a Star Killer game. If they can take Star Killer, make him canon, and then put him in like a Jedi game like this, I would lose my mind because I really think that character should be canon. He's such a great character. It's just such a shame he was thrown to the wayside once Disney bought out Lucasfilm. Sorry.
Yeah, the whole canon thing and legends and this and that. What's canon?
Out
what's
of all
not?
The characters, though, like I think he's one that I think sticks out amongst a sea of good characters. Like he was just such a great apprentice.
It'd be pretty impactful and be pretty cool. I think they just got to figure out how to do it.
Yeah, or make him like the antagonist of a third game where Darth.
He could be an antagonist, yeah. Why not?
Or yeah, I'm happy to see it. Or like if they really, I mean, this is just me throwing ideas out. I mean, obviously, if they're tying things into Star Wars and Obi-Wan, like you guys said, make a series, make a 1-season arc where they hire Cameron Monaghan and Sam Witwer and they just go at it. I would love to see those two on screen.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like if they had like an Obi-Wan Darth Vader scene with those two, like please, like Star Killer took down the Star Cruiser, I can't remember the name of the ship, but like he was the only one who just with the
battle cruiser, yeah.
He's the only one who could do that. I would love to see that on screen. But yeah, that's wishful thinking.
That'd be sick.
Whatever.
Well, you know what? We got some time. We got some pretty awesome games, Star Wars games that like this one. So whether you're playing this or whether you're playing Tears of the Kingdom in the coming days, I think you got a lot of great stuff to play. May is already awesome because of this, and we'll be talking about them as time goes on. I'm going to try and get my feels out there when the credits roll on Jedi Survivor, and we'll be talking about Tears of the Kingdom going forward as well. Bobby, where can everybody find the review that you have up and find some more coverage outside of that as well?
Find the review on consolecreatures.com. It'll be linked on social media everywhere. You'll find me basically on Twitter being a posting demon tomorrow. So if you see my account, you'll see a dozen tweets just saying, come check out review.
Yes, perfect.
And the podcast.
And Steve, how about yourself? And the podcast, of course.
Yeah, you can find me across the internet at Esfikvari. I will be, pouring my heart out at the Blink-182 concert and then pouring my heart out in Hyrule right after. So looking forward to that this weekend.
Amazing. Have a great weekend, sir. Everybody, have a fantastic time with Tears of the Kingdom. Have a fantastic time with Jedi Survivor if you're also playing that. And we will talk to you next week. Bye.